Good Sunday evening, everybody. Chief Meteorologist Andrea Michaels here to talk about the forecast, not just for the week ahead, but the first full week of January, and the first complete week of 2026 as well. So far, I've been okay typing 2026, but I'm waiting for me to make a little boo-boo on a video or something that I can't just easily fix because it's burned into the video, and it's like trying to remember the date when you write it on a check, for those who do still do that. I have to occasionally for a couple things. Dean, hello! I was hoping you would pop on. There are a few other folks that I know usually like to pop on too to chat here. Adam, hello Adam. Welcome back to the Sunday stream. We've got some, I don't know if it's happier topics. It might depend upon your preference here. If you like the milder weather, then I think this is going to be a stream that makes some folks happy, and of course snow lovers, maybe not so much. Dean, I have a feeling you're not going to be happy about this forecast in particular because there won't be anything really too pretty this week except for rain showers, and that's just not pretty. But we'll get right to it. We'll start to jump into it, and hopefully some more folks will hop on as well. We'll start with a look at the weather impact 7-day forecast for the week ahead, which obviously looks very quiet and pretty mild as well. We're going to see temperatures jump into the 50s by the end of the week. So yes, consider this your January thaw. We aren't wasting any time getting into it. It doesn't look like the cold is going to start to reload again, or winter anyway, until we head into the second half of the month, but that's okay. We did say that there would be a January thaw of sorts after the cold December, so it's not entirely unexpected here. It's just a matter of when the cold will come back and then when the pattern will turn more active again. So we'll be keeping an eye on that, of course, towards the end of the month and especially into the first half of February. So we are talking in the here and now, week ahead. We're talking about plenty of clouds to start for Monday and Tuesday, but I do think especially Monday we'll have windows of sunshine. I think Tuesday, in the grand scheme of things, will actually end up a little cloudier than, say, Monday. I think Monday will have just a little teeny bit more sunshine. Oh, Adam, my New Year's was very lovely, thank you. Hopefully both of you had a wonderful New Year's too. We didn't do anything too special New Year's Eve. It was very low-key, but I'm okay with that. We played games and whatnot, and then the little one went to bed after we did a little confetti popper outside. She was waiting all day for it. It was like a cheap little $5 one, but it was pretty big that we got from Walmart, or at least I think it was $5. It was something like that. We didn't spend that much money. We only got a few party hats and some little bling to put on. Yes, Fred, waiting for snow. I have a feeling, I haven't looked too closely to be quite honest here, but I have a feeling we're going to have to wait until the tail end of the month to really bring back enough winter and cold and a more favorable storm track. I think things are going to be relatively quiet for us anyway through the middle of the month and maybe even into the third week of January by the way things are looking. We might not see at least more wintry type weather return until roughly the third week of January towards the end of the month. Let me just make sure this isn't one of those weird months where there's like 5 weeks or whatnot. Yeah, definitely. Okay, good. Just wanted to make sure and double check here because just remembering 2026 instead of 25 is hard enough already. Had to make sure I had the rest of the calendar in my head. And yes, it was correct. I mean, this one, I guess, you got to take the good with the bad, the quiet with the rowdier, the cold with the mild. Consider this a relaxing week, so to speak. Not bad. I mean, many folks heading back to work, kids obviously. Mine's heading back to school tomorrow after a nice long little winter break. Something tells me Daddy's a little happy about that. And me, maybe just a teeny bit. Mommy might be a little bit happy too, but it was a good time though. Anyway, I mean, we're really not looking at any big systems until the end of the week. There might just be a little something. This was the one. So if you were on the stream last week and I said 2 dates in mind to watch around the 6th, and then I think it was either the 8th or the 9th. It's the end of this week. To see if there might be a system or two with enough cold in place to maybe be able to try a little something. along mid-Atlantic, New England, somewhere in that vicinity. So Tuesday, that system is passing us enough to the north that we might get a few spotty showers out of it. But in portions of upstate New York and New England, that's where they're going to get the hit from a weak system. And I remember I did put on the graphic something weak with a question mark. The second one, there is going to be a system towards the end of the week, but as far as any cold goes, that was totally a flop. In fact, not even a few days after I posted that, I had a post with those two graphics. It just completely backtracked, and then I waited to see just in case there was a little flopping back with the cold or anything, but it was just straight up into the, January thaw. More than anything. So we're looking at rain systems by the end of the week. Chance for some showers for Friday. Mostly, more than likely, during the afternoon. I didn't rule out a few stray showers, maybe later Thursday night, and then a dry morning Friday. There's still some timing differences to iron out here. And then Saturday, it looks like the trend is to dry through the afternoon, although it's unclear if we clear out, say, before midday or if it lingers a little into the afternoon. So there will be some timing stuff to keep an eye on. And I know I have 50s here, guys, but especially in like the southeasternmost portions of the state, there might be some 60s. I would certainly not rule that out for sure. We'll talk about that for sure. Oh, wow. Quite a few more people hopped on. Hello, Jeff Miller. Happy New Year. And then Dominic. Yes, I'm glad you're excited for the January thaw. And the Weather Center. Hey, thank you for jumping on. Avery, good to hear from you. What about the rounds of late week rain? I mean, that's really about it. Mild with some rain. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, and in hindsight, I probably should have thought to throw this in, but we still do have drought conditions across a good portion of the state. So, I mean, we do need the rain if we're looking for a plus side here. That would certainly be beneficial with some spots looking to get a half of an inch, maybe as much of an inch of rainfall. But ultimately, it's hard to say where that's going to line up just yet because it depends on the ultimate track of the system, where the front lays out, and then where the areas of low pressure that we're keeping an eye on will end up tracking. What? The GFS was hallucinating a severe event for Illinois next Saturday, several days back. Oh my gosh. I feel like I can't even trust the GFS, especially as of maybe the last 6 or 8 months. I feel like I just can't even trust it. Normally I would say I can't trust the GFS more than 6 days out. I don't even feel like I can trust it 4 or even 5 days out as of like more recent months. I don't know, maybe I was just giving it more of a chance than usual. But yeah, GFS, I mean, I put more stock in the Canadian and the European models, and especially when it's farther out, ensembles are usually the way to go more than anything, especially when you're talking day 6, 7, 8, and you're just trying to get an idea. Ensembles are, they're at least a good starter point because you'll just see each individual model run to run will likely wobble back and forth and sometimes swap with each other, and you really don't get anywhere. So sometimes just having that like consensus to just at least have the picture in your head, the rough picture. Yeah, I mean, the GFS has just been so terrible. The Canadian, I will say, I noticed this at the end of last summer. There were a few times, several times, even late summer heading into the fall, where with the long range pattern, like 5 to 7 days, actually outperformed the European model a couple of times. So yeah, don't sleep on the Canadian model. I would definitely give it a little more weight. And fun fact, I don't know if you know this, Dean, but the Canadian does a really good job with Arctic air masses in place. So during the winter time, when I feel like when you have the Euro and the Canadian kind of in tandem, especially in an Arctic air situation, that does carry a lot of weight with me. That's something I've noticed over the years, in particular with the Canadian. And I've seen a lot of other good forecasters mention it too, so I know I'm not crazy in what I'm seeing at least. But yes. Yeah, ensembles, the NBM, oh yes, can't forget that good old national blend of models, man. And then, that's right, you use Barron, that's right, you got good old, that's nice, you got Barron. We use what the weather company has. It doesn't go that far out though, but their graph model, it's one of their high resolution models. You know, at first it was terrible. It was abysmal when they first rolled it out and they knew it. It took about a year or two, but I have to say, it improved it. They used to call it the RPM, but then they upgraded it to the graph, and after the RPM did really well, the graph was just horrible. But then they did some tweaking, I guess, to whatever the formula is, and it works pretty well now. I find that when the graph model and the Euro model do pretty well in the 2 to 3 day range, that's a pretty good combo. Not perfect, but definitely good. Yeah, I highly recommend integrating it, Dean. I really do. And yeah, maybe it's because, you know, there are good old friends up to the north that it does do well with Arctic air. I've always wondered that myself, but yeah. Hi, Dave. Thank you for joining in. Y'all, I'm glad you're happy about the temperatures. Hey, well, speaking of that, I know you're mentioning garage work and whatnot, but, you know, this would be the week, guys, to take down your holiday lights or decor, anything, you know, Christmas related that might, you know, there's blow up Santas and everything, you know. I would definitely say this week will be the week. Take advantage of it while you can. You just might have to, you know, fit it in around showers. I think so far looking at this, Thursday is the pick as far as that goes for me. Breezes should have eased by then, maybe a little breeze, but nothing crazy. Wednesday's not even going to be that bad. I think Wednesday right now, at least at this time, you know, given no shifts or whatnot, I actually think Wednesday looks like the breeze is mostly going to be morning as opposed to later on in the day. Something to keep in mind there for folks who, you know, want to know and care, hopefully care anyway. But, I mean, sorry, I'm just looking at a model really quickly. I don't remember why I wanted to, and it is the Canadian. Yeah, timing of the rain here. It's not going to be a washout. There will be drier points in time, but definitely going, yeah, I think for sure, as far as breezes, rain, and temperatures go, I really do think your best bet is Thursday. Yeah, Thursday's not striking me as, it's return flow-ish, but it's not like, at least not in south central Pennsylvania, it's not breezy return flow, maybe a bit more of a breeze heading into the Alleghenies and the Allegheny Plateau and the Laurel Highlands, maybe a touch breezier there, but I would say, all things considered, if you're looking for like the best and the perfect conditions, Thursday is your day for taking down any lingering holiday decor. Otherwise, you might have to deal with frozen fingers after that, or wet fingers if you want to wait till the weekend, truly. Up to you, though. My job is just to give you guys the information. You're waiting on the short-range stuff to get better. Oh, yeah, particularly the RRFS has been trying to erase areas of whole states, and it, oh gosh, yeah. With how crazy it gets with its scenarios, yeah, that one might be a little bit of a work in progress. Jason, you say it's been a few weeks, you need the cold, you can't log in the mud because of it being on private land and on Shade Mountain. Well, I think we'll get the cold back. There's still plenty of winter left. I think, though, it could be, I'm seeing some indication, and I hope I'm wrong, and the wild card here is if the polar vortex gets disrupted again and where the cold chunks of air go, but there could be a little bit of a battleground, say like the 3rd or 4th week of January, trying to get the colder air back in. I think we'll start to see some chillier air masses slide back in. I don't see crazy cold, though, just to be clear, next week, like well below average temperatures like what we had last week. But yeah. Oh yeah, definitely time to watch the salt off too. Irving, thank you for joining. Yes, I think you'll like this one for sure too. Take things down Friday p.m. and into Saturday. Yeah, definitely a good one for sure. All right, we'll get into it. We'll take a look at the setup here. Good old fair weather high pressure is in control currently. A little bit of a dirty high, though. And what we mean by dirty high is that, you know, high pressure is usually associated with clear skies and sunshine. Well, obviously it's dark right now, but we'll say, you know, sunshine for the sake of argument. Milder temperatures, usually. But not in this particular scenario, of course. That's why I'm calling it a dirty high. That's because clouds are getting in the way here over where the area of high pressure is. This can happen in a lot of different ways. This is just one of the ways where you've got clouds blowing off from the flow ahead of the next system. This system is the one that's going to pass to the northeast and bring a little bit of snow up in New England. I'll point that out on the future cast I'll show you. And then a secondary area of low pressure out west will scoot, and that'll bring us our chance for some showers. And they'll be spotty and light. I mean, this doesn't look like any big rain, not even just down here in south central PA, but a good portion of the state really isn't looking at much either. Hi, Rick. Good evening. Thanks for hopping on the stream. So, I mean, you know, it's going to be pretty dry through the first half of the week, and overall very quiet with the milder trend too. We could use it, that's for sure. So a little bit of milder air here. I didn't go so far as to put the little, you know, mild text in here because I felt like maybe it'd be a little more appropriate towards the end of the week to really send the message, relatively speaking. But that's really what's going on. Nothing big heading our way. A little bit of lake effect action off of Ontario and the Finger Lakes, but that's really about it. For us, looks like the clouds have thickened right back up again. They'll stay like that through the morning, I think, at least until about, say, 8, 9 o'clock-ish. Then we'll start to see a little bit of sun come back tomorrow. I do have a mostly icon, you know, tomorrow and Tuesday. 2 days where I'm sitting here thinking to myself, you know, I don't think Monday quite fits the partly cloudy just because of high clouds being a little too thick late morning and early afternoon. But then when I see Tuesday and I see all the clouds for Tuesday, I don't know. It's just one of those things where I feel like there's no perfect icon for what I had mentally envisioned. But I think we will see windows of sun late morning Monday and then into the early part of the afternoon before we see skies generally go toward the more overcast outlook. Temperatures, though, I mean, here in south central Pennsylvania, we are looking at mid-30s to around 40 degrees. I think most spots across the state can expect to be rather seasonal for this time of year. For Harrisburg, I believe, if memory serves me correctly, the average high, I believe, is 39. It's on our 7-day. So it was there. I'll bring it back up again at the end and we'll see. So winds, though, they are quieting down this evening and tonight, so they won't add the chill. It'll be a typical chill. Temperatures in the 20s getting out the door in the morning. Again, nothing unusual for this time of year. And then just a gentle breeze at best. Calm winds Tuesday morning, but we do have a touch of a breeze Tuesday again. Really here, nothing to write home about. I mean, it's nothing that stands out to me where, whoa, we gotta, you know. We've had much breezier days, and I've had so many people point out to me just how windy it has been, or at least it seems like it has been. Not just even, I mean, the fall, you know, it's typical to be breezy in the fall, but especially December with all of those cold air masses. Yeah, it's been a time. Hello, Christy. How are you? Todd, you are hearing correctly about the 50 degrees sometime this week, and it's not just a sometime, it's sometimes, multiple days, which is really nice. We have trended in that direction. Oh, and there you go, and I'm glad you're checking in regardless because I get to confirm the rumors for you. A little bit of a breeze overnight Tuesday and into Wednesday, but that breeze should come down during the afternoon and into Thursday. And by the way, Todd, Thursday is that first day I think a lot of us start sliding into the 50s. Our colder spots at our higher elevations, maybe you're still stuck in the high 40s by that point. But, oh yes, we got some 50s coming our way. And enough to make people happy. January thaw here for not just South Central PA, but much of the state. So with that said, here is our future cast for the state, showing that we do have, a little bit more cloud cover, but notice how they start to break up just a touch around late morning, early afternoon. But we still do have a decent amount of high clouds around too. And then, yes, clouds ultimately do make their comeback through the night. Much of Tuesday, I mean, there might be a few breaks of sunshine, but it's going to be more clouds than anything. And I think more clouds than what we're calling for tomorrow. You'll notice the spotty showers in the western portion of the state. Those are going to move in after about midday. It'll take until after dark to get to places like Harrisburg, Chambersburg, and whatnot, and other points to the east. They'll continue to pass through during the night, even up into the northeastern portions of the state. Yeah, maybe a slick spot or two by the looks of it up in Wayne County. If temperatures will probably be pretty marginal there, I would suspect, though, just with all the warm air coming in with this. So I wouldn't worry too much about freezing rain there. Maybe just some of those usually cold spots. And then we see some rain showers taper through the night across parts of the area. Little back-end snow showers moving into the usual spots, northwest, up near Erie, Du Bois, and whatnot. Maybe just north of Du Bois, actually. And then that's that. And then we just dry out, and then a little bit of sun returns, mostly south and southeast for a decent portion of Wednesday. And temperatures will just continue to turn milder. With that said, here's a look. Okay, average high is 39. I remembered correctly. Woo! Yes, it's a small win sometimes. Barron is showing you guys in the 50s for Thursday, Friday over there in southwestern PA, but with rain. Yeah, I believe it. I was debating. I felt like I was a little... So I had a lot of time off, obviously, since I was forecasting. I do look at stuff, especially in the short term, just to make sure... because I'm the chief meteorologist, I got to make sure, like with the snow squall stuff, that I'm in contact with my team with the weather impact alert and whatnot, and making sure that we're calling that, which in hindsight, so glad I started talking about that Monday afternoon, and so glad that we ended up calling for it, because boy, did that baby verify. I just had a feeling about it. But anyway. So I've been kind of out of it for forecasting and short aside from that. Like I would look quickly and especially look at the day ahead. So I didn't go as aggressive Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday as I otherwise might have been inclined to be. But I'm sure once I'm back in tomorrow and I have 2 days under my belt, if I feel like I need to be a little bolder and bump a little bit more Thursday, Friday, and maybe even Saturday, even though Saturday isn't on this one. Yeah, I was debating it, but 60 in January, it's a big ask and you need everything to go just right. So, I wasn't, like I said, I was out of it for a few days, but it wouldn't shock me if I had to do, or if our team rather, if all of us had to do some further bumping in the days ahead. Again, it all just depends on where exactly the placement of the system will be. And if it just wobbled a little bit more down in the next 24 hours, then I totally jumped the gun on bumping. So that's why I gave it another day. I bumped a little, maybe not as aggressively as I otherwise would. But I did bump those 2 days a little bit. I felt like, the data was good for it. The trends were good for it. We'll continue to see, though, if the trends keep it far enough to the north. But, either way... Anything greater than like 45 in January is good in my book. Anything else, higher than 50, that's just bonus. That's even better. Yeah, New Year's Eve bonkers. You ran the squall whiteout from, dang. Oh man, I bet that was something. Oh yeah, Robin, it could definitely be worse this time of year. It has been worse in December for sure. Jason, you say thank God you and your family will be in Florida. Oh yeah, lucky you. Temps in the 60s and 70s for some racing action. Well, you enjoy that. That's going to be a fun time for you guys. Oh my goodness, I don't know. Speaking of Florida, has anybody on Netflix watched the series It's Florida Man? Like it's Florida Comma Man or something like that? My husband and I watched the first 2 episodes of it. My goodness, the jokes how like all of the crazy stories with like the wacky people or whatever seem to always come out of Florida, like these like totally, those wacky stories. I think it obviously is enough of, I don't want to call it a stereotype, but I guess that for lack of better words we'll call it that. I think it's enough of one that they actually made a series about it with some of these wild stories. Dude, so far so good, 2 episodes in. I think we'll actually try to finish it up. I don't know if anybody else has seen it, but we noticed it on Netflix. And I needed a laugh. I don't know. Sometimes I don't feel like... Sometimes I just, like, you know what? I'm having the Sunday... Well, I know today's Sunday, but yesterday was technically my Sunday. I was having, like, the Sunday scaries, and I was like, yeah, I need something a little uplifting here. The World of Outlaws races. Nice. Well, hopefully you don't run into any alligators or anything crazy down there in Florida. That's all I'm going to say. All of the wildest stuff is in Germany or Florida. There used to be a bit on Loveline Radio about that years back. Oh, really? I never heard of it. I wasn't much of a radio listener, though, unfortunately. You'll be going down with a race car driver who is a member of the Pennsylvania Posse. That is awesome. You got a little in there. I love Leonard Skinner it is from Jacksonville, Florida. No kidding. I never knew that. I don't know why I never knew that, but I never did, or maybe I did and I just forgot. That's also very possible. Sorry, need a little bit of a drink. Don't mind me. I tried to cover it. Did I oh, shoot. I didn't cover the label. My bad. This is not sponsored. I am not allowed to do that. Anyways, this is a look at the upper level pattern. Just pay attention to the colors here. Usually, what you see above us in the atmosphere way up high often translates to the bottom. There are some caveats to it, of course, and other levels and what's going on there play a role as well. But you'll notice, generally speaking, the coldest of the air, these deeper blues and especially the purples, up into Canada and in the Arctic. And then these sort of in-between-ish blues, and then some of the more greens start to slip a little farther north through midweek. And then the yellows and the oranges, I want you to watch those especially. Wednesday onward, look how they bulge into the East Coast by the end of the week. The yellows in particular, not just Thursday, but also Friday and Saturday. So that's why, you know, we're leaning toward a much warmer one for sure. The cold, though, whenever you get that ridge or that bulge of warmth, high pressure, ridge of high pressure in the upper levels, you have to keep an eye out west. We see some digging here in the pattern, or what we call troughing, and it looks like the cold is trying to reload and it's trying to get itself in. So of course it won't take very long. This is going to be short-lived. Another ridge building out to the west, so that's not going to bring, you know, anything crazy as far as storms go, but it is going to be enough for the cold to try to nudge its way back in. That's not going to happen until the next system crosses through Saturday. See that bowling ball? That's the next system, our next cold front, somewhere right about here. And then look at this ridge of high pressure that is formed in the off the southeastern coast. Look at that area of high pressure right there. So this is going to dive its way back down. Now, it's no big surge of cold air. This is more of just a chilly return. And it looks like it's kind of, that's how it's going to be Sunday, Monday, and into a good portion of next week. No extreme cold, but you'll notice some cold trying to work its way back in. It'll be chillier. Notice those deeper blues and those deeper purples are still well into Canada. But we are starting to see some signals that, yes, chillier air is going to try to nudge its way back in. Do I think it's going to be Arctic cold like the 20s? You can't rule out a day, but a prolonged period, just based on this, is not looking very likely. And like I said anyway, if you joined at the very beginning of this, I think the cold will really, like the Arctic cold that we have had, especially into at least the 2.5, nearly 3 weeks of December, I think that's going to take some, and of course last week, even though it was brief, I think that cold's going to take some time to reload and nudge its way back down. Couple things I've been looking at. One in particular, the Madden-Julian oscillation. We need to wait for it to get into more favorable phases 7 and 8, which looks like, at least right now, according to the ensembles, there seems to be a good model consensus that that should happen towards the latter end of the month, which does favor a return to the cold. And I've also seen rumors from some really, really good climatologists about the polar vortex possibly getting disrupted again. Now, there's no guarantee that the colder chunks come to us. They could affect Eurasia and not us, but there is some, I don't want to call it speculation, but there are some pretty good educated guesses out there that say, you know, we might be able to capitalize on a little bit of it. So that's something that's on the radar too that I'm keeping an eye on as we head towards the end of the month. So I think at least through now, moderation in temperatures, nothing crazy extremes here as far as cold goes. And once we get past this week, it'll probably be hard to get another surge of a stretch of 50s by the looks of it. But that's okay. Midway, quiet, can't complain. Not bad at all. Especially because Farm Show is this, I believe it starts this Friday, if I remember right, which is the 9th, right? Or is it the 8th? I think, yeah, no, Friday's the 9th, and then it will go through the following Sunday. So 2 Sundays later. So, I mean, you know, people, you know, don't want to have to worry too much about all the travels and stuff. Oh, sorry, I got some comments to catch up on. You say Ronnie Van Zant is the, I hope I said that right, Van Zant is the founder, and a few others. There's a documentary on YouTube that is, wow, 2 hours and 57 minutes long. That's a watch for sure. I'll have to see if I can, that would be really interesting to watch. I'll have to see if I can find that on YouTube. I'm actually going to write that down. YouTube. That would be cool to see one night. Illegal, oh my gosh, it was an intentional illegal sponsor. Maybe one day I can get real sponsors. I need to learn how to market and do things. Anyways, Robin, you say wild stuff in PA, but no Florida manor gators. I mean, I guess it depends. Occasionally, you know, but how do we know, Robin, that they're not from Florida? Maybe visiting? And giving us a bad name. We might have to check those driver's licenses or IDs next time just to make sure when there's a wild PA story. Yeah, polar vortex disruption. It would be nice if it makes it down here so you can film people falling on the ice. Oh, well, that's not nice. But maybe a little fun. As long as we're not the ones slipping. But here's a look at the Climate Prediction Center's 6 to 10 day outlook, which takes you through the it takes you, I'm sorry, this is Saturday, January 10th through the 14th, which I believe is Wednesday, if I did my math right. I believe that's Wednesday of next week. And what this means, it's very, especially when you see like the bright reds or the bright blues, a lot of people think that that's how much below average. This is just a probability more than anything, or the chance. And we've got a reasonable chance that we will have a period, not the entire time, all of these days, but a period. It might be all of those days, but just generally speaking, it means at least a handful of those days, or an average of that period is going to lean above what's considered normal for this time of year. So we will be there. Much of the country, in fact, especially, look at this, Intermountain West, sinking down into Central Plains, parts of the Midwest, especially, look at that, West Coast too. Interesting little setup there. And then as far as precipitation goes, we have equal chances to be above average. I don't see anything that's going to, you know, indicate, whoa, a lot of rain for us, enough to nudge us above average. It would be nice, though, because we could certainly use it. Look at all the dry pockets, though. Especially, look at that, in the Rockies, and especially, yeah, Utah, Nevada. Definitely erring on the dry side. A high probability for this little dry nuzzle here over much of Arkansas, and especially southern Missouri. But we are looking at a decent, yeah, we'll call it a decent amount of warm conditions and dry conditions for much of the nation from Saturday through Wednesday of next week. Oh, well, you have a good night too, Adam. Thanks for jumping on in. And then, oh, no way. Man, you're just a whole boatload of information, Jason, on that. That's for sure. Well, I'm glad he's still going and keeping the band alive since '87. For all of our sakes, for sure. I'll have to watch this because now I'm very intrigued. I feel like I must have heard about this at some point. That's just too wild for me to have never heard of it in my life. You said I should run the splitter to YouTube. I don't know how to do any of that stuff, though. I wish I knew how. Wild. Oh, and by the way, Dean, I did see your response to your email. I can't make any promises for sure, but I have to wait till tomorrow to attempt to connect you with the proper people, if that makes sense. Anyways, Yeah. Okay. Sorry, I lost my train of thought there. Obviously not hard to do. You've seen this happen time and time again for me on these streams. But yeah, I mean, this is a pretty quiet week, pretty dry week. Being in this gray area just means it's equal chances of being below normal or above normal. There's kind of no real clear inkling one way or another. And I'll just say, just from personal experience, drought seems to beget more drought. It can always be that sort of negative feedback loop. So I never want to get hopes up too high when I see where bullseyes of rain might end up, especially so far out. But fingers crossed, because like I said, we still do have some drought conditions. Okay, so here's a look at the weather impact 7-day forecast once again, just in case you missed it at the beginning, and then just so that, it ties everything back together, all nice and pretty and ready to go and whatnot. So, evening showers Tuesday, spotty light across much of the state, really nothing to write home about. No big rain for sure, like 1/10 of an inch for the spots that get it, maybe 2/10 if you're lucky, but that could be pushing it for a good portion of the state. And then bit breezy, increasing sunshine for Wednesday, approaching the 50-degree mark. It was very tempting, I will say, for me to go 50 on Wednesday, but I held off. Northwest breeze, I figured, maybe we get a little cold air advection that I'm not banking on enough. We'll see, though. Once I get another day of forecasting in tomorrow and I can mentally sort of picture everything better, we'll see where we pivot one way or another. Friday, though, I did go 55. It was really tempting not to go higher. And Saturday, too. Saturday, I would not rule out some 60s, and say York and Lancaster counties in particular, at the very least here. We'll keep an eye on it, though. It depends on when we dry out. It looks like the cold air advection will be delayed into the night, so there are some good things going for it, but ultimately it's still a little too early to say, but it is not off the table at this point. Sunday, we do return to chillier. That 46 might be a little too high. I might be giving the euro a little too much credit here, but I actually did undercut it a few degrees, believe it or not. I felt that the GFS might have been just a little too cold given the situation and given the pattern, and plus the GFS, again, past 4 or 5 days, especially as of the last several months, don't really trust it. And the Canadian was close to what the GFS had, so maybe that is worth it. All right, you have a wonderful evening too. Thanks for jumping in again, Jason. And of course, I'm glad to do it, Todd. Thank you for jumping in as well. Have you heard Sweet Alabama and or Freebird? Oh my gosh, I am so aware of Sweet Home Alabama, and I love Freebird. That is probably, I can't think of any right now, but that is definitely, that's at least one of my top Lynyrd Skynyrd songs. Freebird, love it. Song is forever, but there's some good guitar in there, and I just can't hate that. And then through the end of the week, obviously, that's your big warm-up. Showers, we're watching it. Mostly, I would say, keep in mind you'll probably need the umbrella for Friday evening plans. But it's better than freezing your tuchus off, I suppose. And then Saturday, the showers should be mostly during the morning. It's just a question of how long does it take to dry out, midday or afternoon. We'll tweak that timing, though, of course, as we get closer and models can lock in on that better. But, I mean, it's mild. That's the part I'm happy about one way or another. I can work around everything else. But just to say once again, I recommend Thursday in particular be the day to take down any lingering holiday decor and or inflatables. Otherwise, you run the risk of chillier and breezier again heading into the following week. But obviously, many days there aren't too shabby. So, a lot to keep an eye on for sure. Let's see. Oh, Jonathan, you're finally here. You've been puppy wrangling. Lights come down Thursday. All right, good, because that's going to be the day. my husband, I think, what was it, yesterday, I think he said, or something. He was like, I want to take down the lights. And I looked at him, and I forget which day it was. But I said, you want to wait until next week, trust me. Unless you, I mean, and then I said to him, like, I mean, unless you want to freeze, I mean, you do you. I'm just giving you the information that it's going to be better if you wait. Because sometimes he's very, I don't know if neurotic is the word for it, because I know neurotic it does have a negative context to it, but he can get a little nutsos about just wanting to get things done or clean and whatnot, so when he wants to get it done, he'll just go and he'll do it. But I did try to say, your best days are coming if you want to wait for a nicer day where you're not gonna freeze your fingers off. So we'll see. You have a good week too, Dominic. And Jonathan, don't worry, you didn't miss much. It's just a quiet, warm, well, I guess you could call, I mean, in January, I think you can call 58 warm. Warm by Saturday. Mild for sure, but warm by, say, Friday, Saturday by January standards. I think our records this time of year, I'm going to have to look them up. I always need a refresher, but I know they're mostly in the 60s for a lot of days in January, especially later in the month. There might be a couple low 70 days, but if memory serves me correctly, they're not more common until February. Anyways, yeah, that'll do it for now, everybody. I think for the Cloud43 stream. Thank you for joining in again. Again, quiet weather, so nothing too exciting to talk about. Just waiting for the cold to reload, which of course, like I said, I think that's going to be more third and fourth week of January that we really see it try to get going, because we're going to have to wait for a decent pattern shift. With that said, it's not going to be 50 every day until then, don't get me wrong. There will be variation, there will be chillier and what you would probably consider more typical mild for January, but even still some chillier shots too. It doesn't mean we can't have a 20 or a 30 degree day by any means whatsoever. But we'll wait till then, and we'll see if we'll get ourselves in a position where the pattern can become a little more active and cold again. We want the two together. Active, I mean, it will be by the end of the week, but it's not going to be cold, so we've got all rain and whatnot. But yeah, you have a good week, Adam, and you too, Joel. Thanks for tuning in. And Dean, yes, thank you. Good TV for sure. I hope so. See you next week, Jonathan and Dominic and everybody else who tuned in. Have a great week. See anybody who'll be tuning in for Fox 43 News at 10 in like an hour and some change, an hour and 15 minutes or so. Everyone have a great one. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.